The potential makeup of the House looks to be favoring the GOP. Meanwhile, control of the Senate remains a toss-up, but we'll have to see what happens when the votes come in. We have team coverage all around the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication, and we start with our regional desk anchors Lindsay Hill and Nick Costanzo give us a better look at the key races across New York State, including the House, Senate, and gubernatorial election. Nick, Lindsay, what races have you been keeping an eye on? Saying we have a packed night now sounds like an understatement. Coming up, we take a look at the key Senate and House races. Let's talk about Nevada. Also, another tight Senate race could see another first-term Democrat lose her seat. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto and State Attorney Adam Laxalt are deadlocked in the latest polls. And if the GOP flips Nevada, this puts them one step closer to regaining control of the Senate. What about Ohio? Republican candidate J.D. Vance has an upper hand, leading Tim Ryan by just over 1 percentage point. It is that close, ladies and gentlemen. Vance is currently favored to win in Ohio. However, Ryan's record-breaking fundraising has allowed him to keep within striking distance. Welcome back into the national desk of Hofstra Votes Live 2022. Yaw Bonsu alongside Crystal Bermudez and Danny DiCrescenzo. Let's take a look at some of the House races our teams have been following. Golden ousted him from his seat in 2018. The 7th district races also very, very tight. This newly configured district is home to a competitive race between two well-known officials, incumbent Democrat Alyssa Slotkin and Republican State Senator Tom Barrett. Slotkin receiving a notable endorsement from one Liz Cheney. Thank you so much, Michael. A 20-point Republican shift. Wow, and if you're looking for the reason for that, inflation may be your answer because it is a crucial issue for voters in this year's election, and I spoke to some Long Islanders on their thoughts about it. Economist and author, Professor Jayati Ghosh. Professor Ghosh, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Danny, Crystal, we heard her say in her first answer, you shouldn't be blaming Democrats, you shouldn't be blaming Republicans. It is simply big businesses to blame for inflation. Danny, your thoughts? Those are issues we're seeing across the country, and then sprinkled in there, you have little things that each state is doing to try to combat inflation. And why don't we start in Nevada? Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, she supported the Inflation Reduction Act. She also stands by lowering the price of prescription drugs and energy costs, something the act supports. But she also wants to close tax loopholes for big businesses. Her opponent, Republican Adam Laxalt, blames inflation on high government spending. That's been a common theme among Republicans, which he looks to reduce if elected. Laxalt believes that high taxes, the rising cost of gas, and consumer goods are harming low-income Americans. Over to the Buckeye State of Ohio, Republican candidate J.D. Vance also blames inflation on high amounts of spending by the Biden administration. I know you guys are seeing the theme. He believes, depending on the Committee on Transportation Equity and Investment in Chinese Battery Technologies, are necessary. His opponent, on the other hand, Tim Ryan, he's a supporter of the Inflation Reduction Act. He is focused on cutting off healthcare and essential medication while reducing the national deficit. We could be seeing the election turn in favor of Herschel Walker, but now let's head back out to our correspondent Rachel Katz, who is speaking with voters at a Mineola polling location a little bit north of Georgia, if you didn't know. Rachel, tell us what you're seeing and hearing over there. Thank you so much, Ryan. We will check back in with you throughout the night. Now, we do have some breaking news regarding the Georgia race once again. About 70% of the votes have been counted. We have Herschel Walker, who has received 50% of the votes, while Raphael Warnock has 49%. Now, Danny, this race is so close, the only thing that seems to separate the two candidates is a Heisman Trophy. But Danny, I think to discuss the wider scope of this race, you really have to look at how the governor's race is going right now in Pennsylvania. Crystal, we talked a lot about endorsements. We just saw the package from Jessica there. We had President Biden, former President Barack Obama. Oprah wasn't even included. And
Oprah was not included.
The Democrats brought Oprah in, and if you bring Oprah in to endorse your candidate, you know something big's about to happen. So do you think all of these endorsements are playing a role in how close this race is, or should the margin be very much wider for Fetterman? But to get more information, let's turn our attention to Michael Richardson. Michael, give us more information on what is probably the most popular race of the midterms this year. Just past 11:30 p.m. here in New York. Welcome back to Hofstra Votes Live 2022. I'm Yaw Bonsu, joined by Crystal Bermudez and Danny DiCrescenzo on the national desk to discuss what is going on at the polls on a national scale. Ballots continue to be counted across the country, and many important decisions are still being made. Once again, the New York gubernatorial race has not been called, but the Hochul campaign is claiming victory. I know we're on the national desk here, but nevertheless, this is one of the bigger races in the country, the New York State governor's race between Kathy Hochul and Lee Zeldin. Danny, we can't say it's much of a surprise. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, we're still awaiting results there. Doesn't look like we'll get there by the end of the show, but still, what questions do you have?